Jacob Rees-Mogg, you have repeatedly praised Nigel Farage as a formidably capable politician, a fundamentally good thing for British politics. Are you having a bit of a rethink now?
No, I think he's a formidably able politician. I don't think we would have got Brexit without Nigel. And I think he's been very important in helping the Conservative Party re-find its inner Conservative, that the more soggy left-wing elements of the party seem to have gone. So I think he's done a lot of good for British politics.
Is he in trouble over these allegations of benefits in kind from George Cottrell?
I think George Cottrell is a problem for Nigel because George Cottrell has a criminal record, and I think it is difficult for a politician to be seen to be very close for somebody who's been to an American prison for, I think, 8 months for wire fraud. Fraud is a dangerous-sounding word, to my mind, in political life, and you should be very careful as a senior politician about the company you keep.
I mean, he denies any wrongdoing. Nigel Farage denies any wrongdoing. George Cottrell himself categorically disputes the allegations in the Sunday Times. Nigel Farage says he's a victim of an establishment hit job. Do you think the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner should investigate and settle this dispute?
Well, first of all, there are two different things. Nigel Farage has clearly not done anything that is criminal, anything that is seriously wrong of that kind. The most he may have done is fail to report something that he ought to have reported. He's not in the same position as George Cottrell, who has been in a federal penitentiary. Even the words federal penitentiary sound pretty ghastly, don't they? I mean, sort of, Alcatraz was a federal penitentiary, not that he was in Alcatraz. So I think we need to differentiate clearly between the two, and between Christopher Harborne, who is a man of honest reputation, who gave Nigel £5 million. So there are separate things. The issue here, as I understand it, is mainly around a use of a property that could have been seen as a benefit in kind. There is a registration of a donation from Cottrell to Reform for the benefit of Nigel Farage. So it's a Nigel Farage recorded donation of £15,000 that was made in December 2024. So some registrations have been made.
You think he should have been more complete in those registrations?
I think to come to the rules of the Commons on registration before you're a Member of Parliament, what does it say? It says anything that relates to being a Member of Parliament or to your political party in the 12 months before ought to be declared, but it also says that if there's any doubt, you ought to declare it too. So if your mother gave you £5 million, you clearly wouldn't have to declare it. But if you're given £5 million by somebody because of your political career, I think that's when you get into a borderline issue. And I would be surprised if the Commissioner for Standards didn't come to the conclusion that this ought to have been reported.
And should the Commissioner investigate?
The Commissioner already is investigating the Christopher Harborne
the £5 million,
and the £5 million
but this one too.
Well, this one, the Commissioner always responds to complaints. So I think an MP has put in a complaint, he will have to look at it. There is a problem here, and there's an unfairness here that I was very conscious of when I was in the House of Commons. If you're a very high-profile person and a complaint is made against you, under the rules you're not allowed to defend yourself. The complaint is meant to remain confidential, and the idea is that if it's confidential, you as the accused can't speak, but nor can the accuser. When you're very high-profile and it's all in the public domain, you're supposed to sit there, mum, saying nothing at all. And I think that's unfair. I think it's obvious that a politician has to defend himself when a story of this kind emerges, rather than being expected to wait patiently for months.
But he could defend himself. I mean, he's put out a statement today, but he could defend himself now before there's any question of the
which he is doing.
Beginning
I think yes, he can now. But it's very difficult to differentiate between the two complaints. So he's at risk of falling foul of the Commissioner by defending himself because he's also defending the £5 million donation.
I mean, Reform says he didn't need to declare the benefits provided by George Cottrell because they were received before he was elected and they weren't political. I mean, you, like Nigel Farage, have done reality TV. You're also a presenter on GB News, as he is. I mean, is there a sense in which, you know, this is about him as a personality rather than a politician?
Yes, but it's very difficult to divide the two up. I had to get permission from the ridiculous body that gives permission to ministers to do things, to do a programme with the Discovery Channel. And they were late replying because they're useless. I mean, they're a hopeless body, but it obviously had nothing to do with my political career. But still, under the rules, I had to ask them. And they finally got round to replying and said, yes, of course I could. But you are bound by rules as a politician that apply to you in your non-political life. And I think this raises an interesting question. For Ofcom purposes, I am deemed to be a politician. So on GB News, I can't report any news. I can only comment. But am I still a politician? Because I'm not in Parliament. I have no prospect of being back in Parliament in the near term. What is a politician? And I think as much it's in how you behave, what your interests are, and if you've been one, do you ever really stop being one?
So your answer is you are still a politician?
I think I'm obviously still a politician. And
just as Nigel Farage was before he became an MP?
It's very hard to argue that he wasn't still a politician. He was honorary president of Reform, and he was campaigning on things. He was highlighting the small boats and immigration and all sorts of other government failures. So he was doing very political things.
What does it say about Nigel Farage's judgment that he had this, close professional or personal relationship with George Cottrell, who was a convicted fraudster?
Well, it's very difficult that people have friendships that they've sometimes had for a long time that are inconvenient politically. I think politicians have to be pretty ruthless in this regard, and if somebody is convicted of a serious fraud, they can't really have that person as a close advisor.
Right. So he should have just got rid of him.
I think he should have done, and I think it was a mistake not to. But I wouldn't condemn him too much. I think that people are linked in various ways with people who do things that are mistakes. I've certainly known people in my political career who have done things that they would have been better advised not to do. Unlike
some of your Conservative colleagues who've jumped ship to Reform, you have resisted the entreaties. I mean, do you feel vindicated now? Do you feel that you had a sort of nervousness about Nigel Farage's leadership and judgment?
No, I mean, I like Nigel Farage personally. I think he's a quite exceptional, very interesting politician. But I'm a Tory, I always have been, and I was never going to change. I also am very pleased to see that leader of the Tory party, Kemi Badenoch, doing extraordinarily well.
It's still way behind Reform in the polls, though.
Not personally. Personally, she's ahead of Nigel, the Tories behind. But I think Nigel's been a great contributor to the Tory party because I think he has helped Kemi Badenoch say things like we must leave the European Convention on Human Rights, that we must give up on the net zero nonsense.
He's pushed her to the right.
Which the Tory party wasn't willing to say under Rishi Sunak.
He's pushed her to the right.
He's helped the Tory party be Tory, which to my mind is a thoroughly good thing.
Do you hope that this current latest row and the difficulties that Nigel Farage is having will persuade more of your voters who have defected to Reform to come back into the fold, and supporters like your teenage daughter who joined Reform?
Oh, absolutely. I haven't asked Mary whether she's immediately coming home to the Tory party. I think some people are questioning...
Were you just using a football expression there?
Not deliberately. But I do now know what you mean, yes. No, sorry, I'm not very good at my footballing analogies, slightly better on the cricketing ones. I think some Reform supporters are beginning to wonder whether the Tory party wouldn't be just as sensible a base for them. But I think you are seeing some tactical voting in both directions. I think the two by-elections in Makerfield and in Aberdeen South, the Tories voted Reform in Makerfield, Reform voted Tory by and large in Aberdeen South. So I think you're beginning to see an informal cooperation between the two parties.
I mean, although polls suggest Reform may have peaked, there's still, as I say, the party is way ahead of the Conservative Party. So there's not much sign that this current row, well, it's too early to say with this current one, but the row over the £5 million gift hasn't really hurt them that much, has it?
No, and I think this is very interesting because the question to which I don't know the answer is Nigel Farage Donald Trump? Is it at the point where it doesn't matter what they throw at him, his supporters think this is just the establishment stitching him up and he gets more rather than less popular? My view is that if the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner and the committee come down very heavily on him, Nigel becomes more, not less popular. If they just say, OK, you made a mistake and we'll suspend you for a day and you must make an apology, then I think that's really difficult for Nigel because it hits at his administrative competence and his integrity. But if they really go for him, which they may do because the blob hates Nigel, he's absolutely right to point that out. If they go for him, if he has to fight a by-election, he will win by miles.
Because he'll be martyred.
He'll be martyred. If you make a martyr of him, that's great for Nigel.
Just finally, you are probably the poshest person we've ever had sitting on the sofa.
Compared to you, you don't sit on the sofa, of course.
I'm on the chair.
That's a silly me.
George Cottrell was known as Posh George. And he was a proper aristocrat. I mean, he's posher than you. I mean, what damage would that do to Nigel Farage's man of the people sort of mentality?
But that's a very difficult question for me to answer, the degrees of poshness. I think Cottrell's damage to Nigel is that Cottrell has a conviction for wire fraud. I think that's what matters, not whether or not he is posh. And I'm not quite sure how posh he is in the great scheme of things.
But, I mean, a serious point, Nigel Farage likes to sort of project this man of the people image, doesn't he?
But he's a man for all people. Posh people, all people.
Jacob Rees-Mogg, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.